I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, we're sure to find happiness. And I guess all those things you've always
So then Charles kind of became known as the Thin Man, right? How did that come to be? I mean, because all of the five, of course there's the five sequels that are all the Thin Man, but there's no Clive Wynant, so.
Right, it is confusing, and our author of the novel, Dashiell Hammett, was very clever in putting a major clue into the title of the novel, The Thin Man, because of course it does refer to the missing inventor, Wynant, and not the detective Nick Charles. And of course, the inventor ends up being murdered. The studio, MGM, wanted to capitalize on the great success of the film. So when they decided to come up with a sequel, they wanted to put the title of the original film in, even though the character had been killed in the original film. So that led audiences to conclude, oh, well, the Thin Man must be Nick Charles. So, but that's incorrect.
Yeah, so this was like a huge breakout, like when it happened. I mean, it was a hit, of course, critically, commercially, but it really shook things up.
It did, indeed. And the primary reason is the way that this film portrayed marriage. It was unique. Previously, marriage had been portrayed three ways. Number one, either in comedy and drama with a henpecked husband and a shrew wife for either laughs or dramatic effect. It was also used in melodrama. They would have a lead couple where the couple is dealing with infidelity or with medical woes or financial woes. Or thirdly, that marriage would be completely omitted. You would see a couple getting engaged or being wed and then end of film. So this was to have a married couple where marriage is sexy and fun. These people like each other, they like being married, they like sleeping together. This was so novel. Audiences were bowled over by it. I mean, they had this banter, they flirt with each other, they tease each other about their weaknesses. Nora teases Nick about his drinking, and he teases her about her spending and buying herself presents. And most important, Nora is portrayed as his equal. And that was very unusual. She is his equal. She matches him, sarcastic line for sarcastic line, and also drink for drink.
Oh, I love that. That is that is one of my absolute favorite things in the movie, where she's like, how many martinis have you had? And it's the setup makes you think, right, that it's it's to nag at him, to like you're just meeting this couple, so your expectation is she's gonna be like, oh God, how much have you had to drink? But then when she's like, okay, 5 more martinis, just line them up here, so she's asking so she can get caught up. It's so darling.
And so unusual, because she's not passive, she's not on the side, she is an active participant, she is a partner in the marriage, she is getting into the detecting, she wants to be right in the thick of things. This was all very novel at the time.
Well, and the booziness itself, that was pretty novel, right? I mean, were there any other films that have this much alcohol in it?
Well, it started a trend. It's a very common element in screwball comedy, alcohol, because alcohol leads to uninhibited behavior. And of course, eccentric, zany behavior is a hallmark of screwball comedies. So you'll see alcohol very common in screwball comedy genre. But there was a second reason why. We've talked in this film series about 5 major social, political, and economic events in the United States during the 20s and 30s that directly led to the advent of the screwball comedy. And one of them was Prohibition. Congress had decided to make alcohol use a moral issue. And then they decided to legislate morality by making it illegal. Well, it was a 13-year experiment that failed miserably. And of course, the end result was organized crime got a strong toehold across the country. So this movie is a celebration. If you recall, Prohibition started in 1920. It lasted through 1933, and the novel was written at that time, and the movie came out in 1934. So this is a celebration of the repeal of prohibition.
Absolutely. Speaking of the novel, let's talk a little more about that, about Dashiell Hammett. How much of him in the novel is in this? I've never read it.
He followed the tenet that many successful writers follow, and that is write what you know. As you mentioned in your excellent introduction, Dashiell Hammett had been a Pinkerton detective. He was fascinated by crime and investigation. What happened was he loved being a detective until he was called out on an assignment in Butte, Montana, and learned the assignment was that the Pinkerton detectives would be used to infiltrate a group of workers who were trying to organize a union and then to undermine union efforts. And of course he knew this was the midst of the Depression. Millions of people were out of work, so wages had been driven down so low because there was such an overabundance of available labor. And here these people, their only hope to get a decent living wage was to organize as a group and negotiate as a large number. And he became very disillusioned with it. And he left the Pinkerton agency and he left detective work. And he transitioned into writing. He became a successful writer immediately with Red Harvest in 1929. His next book was The Maltese Falcon, which of course was immortalized, the Sam Spade character by Humphrey Bogart in the 40s. Then he wrote The Glass Key, which became a classic film noir in 42 with Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake. Then The Thin Man. And why was that so different? It was crime fiction, but here he overlays this urbane, sophisticated, wonderful couple that you just want to be with them. You want to be at the party with them. You would like to live their life, and to have them having fun. You never read detective crime fiction where you had murder and fun going on simultaneously. So it was just a knockout.
That's terrific. Wow, that's fascinating. I never knew that about Dashiell Hammett. And I mentioned the screenwriters, Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett, that they added a lot of their own kind of special magic to the dialogue.
They did. Dashiell Hammett had based the character of Nora on his longtime partner, the very famous and acclaimed writer Lillian Hellman, to whom he dedicated the novel Thin Man. And Francis Goodrich and Albert Hackett then took the ball and ran with it. They too were a married couple. They were writing partners. They understood about partnership and married couple working together, so they were ideal to write the Thin Man screenplay and ideal to write other screwball comedies about, again, man-woman partnership working together. They upped the playful banter between the couple. They also were experts at innuendo and sexual wordplay that still was able to get through the censorship rules because, of course, one of those key components that led to the advent of screwball comedy was extreme censorship imposed on all films, especially about any visual or verbal depiction of sexual anything related to sex. And so they're clever. What it does is it leads to such a sophisticated and clever, nuanced screenplay. And they were just, they had a huge career together, Pulitzer Prize winning. They wrote for Broadway and for film. And this is just one example of a masterpiece. They were nominated for an Academy Award in this film. And then for the sequel, that came out in 1936 after The Thin Man. They wrote that screenplay. They were also nominated for an Academy Award for that.
Oh. So let's talk about the director, Woody Van Dyke.
He was much maligned during his career. Before he went into directing, he was a vaudevillian, so he was intimately familiar with physical comedy, a cornerstone of screwball comedy. And in addition to that, he wrote detective fiction. So he was ideally suited to recognize the cinematic potential of The Thin Man when he read the novel. He proposed it to MGM Studios, and he had worked with William Powell and and Myrna Loy on Manhattan Melodrama in 1934, and had realized that they had a terrific rapport and with their off-screen banter, and he thought they would be perfectly suited to play Mick and Nora, and so he did place them in that. He was called One Take Woody, which was a very pejorative moniker for him at the time, because he did not do multiple cover shots, meaning that he didn't shoot every scene from many different angles. He did this because he felt that filming a scene over and over made the performances dry and stale, energy drooped, but he was known as One Take Woody, as though he were a sloppy filmmaker and a lazy filmmaker. It was only decades after his death where his work was reassessed. Now he is considered a master because he did guide so many actors to Academy Award-winning performances, and his movies, such as today's perfect example, have stood the test of time.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, Myrna Loy, both of them, they just have this impeccable comic timing. I adore Myrna Loy. She just, I mean, you know, they're both terrific. I know William Powell has a connection to Palm Springs.
He does indeed. Deep roots. He maintained a residence in Beverly Hills, but he did live in Old Las Palmas for 48 years with his wife on Verita Norte. So this was his home, and very, very deep roots here in the desert. Also, he contributed 2 scenes to this film, so he was more than an actor in this film. The comic entrance, where he is instructing the bartenders on the art of shaking cocktails and different rhythms for different cocktails, he came up with that. He also came up with the scene where he's shooting Christmas tree ornaments off the tree with an air gun.
Oh, that is amazing. The physical comedy of that is terrific.
That was him. He was goofing around during a break, and Woody Van Dyke saw that, and they immediately incorporated it in, and it's one of the delights of the film. So he was more than an actor, very creative.
That's amazing. I mean, I think people just kind of went nuts for them, right? I mean, they were in so many films after this.
Indeed. They became one of the great screwball couples. They were in many screwball comedies, and they made 14 films total together over their career. So the public loved them, and they just have such a grace and a charm, and they're just so fun to watch and interact, and they're just beautiful.
And Asta. And we can't forget Asta. It was so great. For anyone that was here last week, we had Bringing Up Baby, and George, the terrier in Bringing Up Baby, is played by Skippy. Is that right?
Skippy, yes. AKA Asta. And Skippy had a huge career, 30 films, and 5 major screwball comedies, including last week's and then today's. He was as popular as any human actor. Look at the scenes. The comic scenes he did, he's popping balloons, he's hiding from danger, sniffing out corpses, pulling on the leash as they're going on the walks. I mean, total comedy. And he did start a national craze for the wire fox terrier. He was so popular that across the country, people wanted that dog for the family dog.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you, Aliece. I mean, it's always such a delight to chat with you. Are there any other nuggets you want to leave us with? Anything else we should know about the Thin Man?
I'm just so glad to see the big turnout today, and it's just a joy to be watching these movies on the big screen and talking about them, and hopefully helping the audience to understand the context that they were in and why screwball comedy is so special and so revolutionary, and that we can't let it be forgotten.
I can't give you anything but love, baby. That's the only thing I've plenty of, baby. Dream a while, scheme a while, we're sure to find happiness. And I guess all those things you've always pined for. Gee, I'd like to see you looking swell, baby. Diamond bracelets, Woolworth doesn't sell, baby. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby, I can't give you anything but love.